This may be the latest we've been. It's all Cadeas' fault. Uh, Welcome, everyone. I am Dan McDermott, your host. I was actually on time today, and Craig was on time. I was on time because I'm the host and set the example, the leader of the group. Craig was on time because he never misses a chance to troll us. This is the second best trolling experience Craig has throughout the week. The best is anytime he posts an Audrey video because he gets some trolls there, and he engages, I should say.
Or a product review of an iPhone.
Speaking of Audrey videos, Craig, she's about to hit a fairly major milestone, but this is on Facebook, not YouTube.
Yeah, 100,000 shares. She's got 96,000 or something shares. So we're hoping. I don't think she'll have it by Monday night's show. Her show's Monday night at 9. It'll probably be maybe the following Monday. We'll probably celebrate that. So that's pretty cool. I predicted that it would hit 100,000, and it looks like we're going to do it.
Now the likes are way more, right?
Yeah, but actually the ratio of shares to likes, we talked about that before, is very high. Way over 40% of the people that have liked it have also shared it, which is amazing.
That is very impressive. And tell us what the video is. It's a sort of a music video, but
so
different.
if they go to hoopinglive.com, I do have a link there to her viral video. And she was hooping to Taylor Swift's song, I think it's called Shake It Off or whatever. It's a popular song. And it had just come out, and Audrey was all into it. And she just, on the spur of the moment, turned her webcam on and did this video. And it's not even in HD. It was just something that we threw up. We got in a hangout, and she showed it to me and so on, and asked me if what she should do with it. And I said, well, let's put a little beginning on it. Let's record a little intro, and let's put a little your brand at the end, and let's throw it up on Facebook and see what happens, because I didn't want her to put a copyrighted song like that up on YouTube
and jeopardize her account.
Yeah, but she put it up there on Facebook, and it just took off.
She probably would have been okay though, because like I have songs, me singing various country songs and Elton John songs, either in my studio or on stage at a bar.
She probably would have been okay, but she wouldn't have been able to monetize it. And what I told her was, since you're not going to be able to monetize it on YouTube anyway, since she has so many contacts on Facebook and so many hoopers that she knows on Facebook, I thought it had a better chance of really taking off there. So, since she's not going to make money on it anyway, right? Then I said, let's just go for it on Facebook. We may still go ahead and put it up on YouTube. Somebody else, by the way, has already put it up on YouTube now. It is up there. And a bunch of other people have downloaded it and shared it. And I mean, it literally is going viral.
Now, she made a conscious effort to not stick it on YouTube. That would really diminish her entreaties into the large hooping community on Google+.
Oh, well.
Okay, so anyway, that happened. So that's awesome. I will go to Cadeas before we have his chair again. Welcome, Cadeas. How are you?
What's up? I'm good.
Big project today, or busy traffic, or you swung
Everything. I don't even want to talk about it.
Okay. I had a horrific day, and then I had a weird. This guy. I'm well known regionally. From being a news reporter and newspaper publisher in northwestern Virginia. I've been on the DC stations. I was on a Real Housewives of DC. I was on Good Morning America, stuff like that, right? But I'm not by any way a celebrity that someone would normally recognize. I can go to the mall and I don't have to wear sunglasses and a big hat. But I'm in Walmart. This guy, are you the news guy? I was like, yeah, yeah. And he's like a little too enthusiastic, right? And I was, okay, I'm gonna get my shopping now. And then I saw him a couple more times, and I could kind of tell I was in his periphery. And then I go to pay, and then he comes up and he's got his phone, and he keeps saying selfie, sir. And then he's aiming it up, right? He's got it in front of him, and the guy in front of me in line is, like he's about ready to lunge at this guy, thinking he's taking his picture, right? Because the camera's aimed right at him. But really, the camera, had the front camera on, and then he's like, can we do it? And I was like, and he took a selfie. I don't know what the hell. That freaked me out. You know what I mean?
I thought you were going to say he was going to offer to buy your stuff. That would have even been better.
Oh, that would have been nice.
Yeah,
You know.
there's that.
But that was kind of a weird situation. And then there's this problem that Walmart in Front Royal. This is they built a self checkout thing, which is cool. They renovated the store. I think they opened in '08 or '07, but they renovated it. All new carts, which is badass. And then they've got the thing, but there's this post, a support post that couldn't move. And so there's a fairly small area to exit after you pay for your stuff. And there's a checkout right there. So if you have an obese person, you kind of have to wait to leave, right? And let's face it, at Walmart, you're about 50-50 shot. You're going to have to wait to leave. So,
Damn. Please, this is not politically correct.
I buy all my cheap imported Chinese processed foods.
Horizontally challenged
At
is the
Walmart.
term we use. We don't use obese. We use horizontally challenged.
They used to say big boned. I thought they were big. They have a.
Yeah, but I think it's horizontally challenged
It's
now.
a-
Cadeas, isn't that the proper term that we're supposed to use now for large people?
I thought it was.
Hey, I'm not in this at all, guys.
I thought it was a gland condition. That's what they said. But anyway, and I've been overweight, and Craig, his family has a history of being overweight. But Craig, you know that, and so you work out a lot all day. I know because he calls me every time. I'll get 7 calls a day. Dan, so did you see the new Apple thing? Oh my God, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy 3 of them.
How do you know I'm working out?
Yeah, you could.
Maybe
Well, if
something.
Pam called me, then I would be suspicious. If there was heavy breathing, but with you, I could tell you're doing your walk. So anyway, I got the weird thing here. This story. I linked to this. This was the weirdest damn thing. Now the ISIS Islamic State thing is not funny in any way, but if it were, this it's not funny. It's weird. I saw this tweet, and I think she's the Washington Post bureau chief or something. So it's not some person making this up. Let me screen share here. Let me get rid of any incriminating.
So now which
Pop-ups.
topic? Which one are you on? I'm on the
It's
document.
The
here.
first thing I say, weird thing of the day. Let me show you guys. This is a tweet. I swear to God. It says Syrian sheep flee the ISIS advance on Kobani. Turkey opened its borders to sheep 2 days ago. Literally, they officially opened the door. Sheep, you are allowed to cross over if you are fleeing ISIS. Sheep. There's a picture of the sheep. That's the weirdest thing I've seen this week.
Well, yeah, I would think they would want the sheep anyway. Sheep are valuable.
I'm saying, like, the big humanitarian effort to say, yes, you may bring your livestock into our hungry arms.
Sure.
We are that caring about humanity. And
Yeah, but
people
the
were, of
problem
course,
is
making
the sheep-
puns.
Yeah,
And
the
some of
problem
them
is the sheep don't know what they're running towards, and they know what they're running away from, but what they're running towards might be even worse.
And some of the puns people made in comments on my post were bad.
I can imagine.
Is that a lamb or a sheep that goes bad? What's the one they had in the Taylor Swift video? But this is wild, and I don't understand this. You go to her, it's Liz Sly on Twitter, Lizsly, and let me get her. She's Washington Post Beirut bureau chief covering Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and beyond. She's busy. But anyway, she's got this other picture here. This show is from October 3rd, 2014. But she shows the world's press here. ISIS moving on Kobani. But here's a shot. I would be terrified to be in that job. I don't know where they are exactly, but look at all those satellite dishes, media covering ISIL. I mean, they just cut a head off another Brit today. I would not want to be there up close. I mean, call me a coward, but anyway. So that was weird. The sheep fleeing ISIS, I thought, was the weird story of the day.
So Dan, before you move on, I've got a picture here for those that weren't aware of who we were talking about when we were talking about Audrey. I've got a picture of her doing some hooping. This was down in Florida, so that's Audrey doing a little bit of hooping with the hula hoop there. Hoopinglive.com, Monday nights at 9 o'clock, and that's the next show.
She is even more attractive than the Android Week panel, which competes.
Really? Okay.
All right,
Well,
so our first official thing, and Cadeas, if you're within earshot, I hope you can join us in a moment on this, but this would be a great topic for Pam to opine on. She couldn't make it tonight, and Alan can't make it tonight. And the reason we're so late is we're waiting for Cadeas, because I swear to God, Craig and I are nice guys, but I cannot single-handedly...
Speak for yourself.
I cannot single-handedly handle a tech show with some of these topics that we have. But you can restrict your content by age and location. This is an announcement from Google. And they said you can decide that only users 18 up or 21 and up should be able to see your posts. You can also specify ages on a country-by-country basis if you need something more custom. Like in some countries, you could get in trouble if something's 16 and up or 14 and up or 21 and up. I don't know. So I could see, for example, if you were a page promoting a tobacco company or an alcohol company and you had giveaways for Grand Marnier or Cavassier, or you had whatever, you could buy, you were selling branded products for Marlboro or something, you'd want this. Because like if you go to a website for a liquor company or a beer company or a tobacco company, they'll say, verify your date of birth before you proceed. Because they don't want to be accused of marketing, of pulling a Joe Camel and marketing to kids. So this is an obvious good idea, Craig, wouldn't you say?
Well, honestly, I think it's a good idea, like you said, specifically for industries that don't allow you to, that you technically aren't supposed to advertise to minors. So, like you said, cigarettes, alcohol, or just if you just want to post adult content and don't want to worry about who's seeing what you're posting. This gives you control, and that's dealing with age, but also by region. And the fact that you can basically post by region, like if you wanted to target one area like Japan or China, and you didn't want people from the outside to be able to see what you're posting or whatever, you can make a page that targets just them, and it's only available to those people.
Or if you wanted to share a YouTube video that you knew was not viewable outside the UK or outside the US, like some
Right.
BBC stuff is not viewable outside. If you were posting a rated R movie trailer, if they even put those on YouTube, I'm not sure. You might want to restrict the age.
I don't think they do, but if you have a product or service that's only available in a certain area, you might want to restrict. I can remember back, one of our first clients on our local community website here, Frederick.com, was an antique shop that dealt in primitive antiques, and we put up a page, and this was in the early days of the internet, and all of a sudden he starts getting calls from like all over the country asking him all kinds of questions about these primitive antiques that he had, and he didn't ship anything. And so it was just a total waste of his time. And he finally told us to take the page down. I don't want it. Get rid of it. He cried uncle, right? So, there's times when you can get traffic and attention that isn't going to benefit you in any way, shape, or form. So you might very well want to restrict who can see your content.
A gun dealer, obviously, like certain countries,
a plumber that just serves a certain area, right? He doesn't want people calling him from 4 states away and saying, how do I fix my leaky whatever, and has to give them free advice all the time. So I can see businesses wanting to restrict who has access to their content.
You didn't suggest that the guy find a a local mailbox, etc. If they even had those
He
back
just
then.
didn't want to do it. The stuff was very fragile, and he was a more of a volume operation anyway. There's another company here in Frederick that does do that. That's huge on shipping stuff and so on. And he's also he is a sponsor and has been a sponsor for a long time. But this other guy was a smaller operation and didn't want to fool with it. He
They
had
still
people asking him.
they still got those eBay guys. It's not a well advertised thing. We had one advertiser in my newspaper that it was an eBay um, shipping guy. I'll sell for you on eBay, right? And he gets a
Yeah,
percentage
yeah,
if it
yep,
sells. And there's probably a fee for, I guess you have to pay to list
yep.
stuff.
We had one here in Frederick. I don't think it's still there anymore. I don't
The
know
guy
how
here
well
went
they.
out of business. So
Huh?
apparently, it sounds like like a lot of ideas. It seems like a great idea on paper, but there's, I guess, not a lot of demand. But there are these guys. I think it's hard to find, but somewhere on eBay you can get lists of people in your local area that will do this for you. And
Yeah.
so anyway, okay, so that happened. So you can restrict your content. Okay, so the next thing, this is interesting. Hangouts for work. This is another post from Google. This is Google for Work. And what they did is they open with just,
Well,
you want to explain it better, Cadeas?
let me preference this by saying that some of this was already available. I think they're just trying to make sure businesses know that it's there. Probably the biggest change in this thing that basically Hangouts for Businesses it has had upgrades, but the main change is the fact that, which we talked about on a few shows ago, that now Google is allowing people who don't use Google Plus to be able to log in with just a Google account. So basically, if I had a meeting that I wanted to have with people all over the world, I can just send them the Hangout URL. They can come in. Granted, they have a Google account of some kind, whether it's a Gmail or whatever, not just not specifically a Google Plus account.
One of
Being
the,
able to show. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but the other big thing is it's easier to get them in. I think you were about ready to talk about sharing the link and the behavior. What's different about it? You want to go ahead?
Right. Right now, you just have to sign in with a Google account. It doesn't have to be a Google Plus account.
I
You don't
think
have to go.
but one difference, the way they handle trolls is you can just email the thing out, and then they can just come in as long as they're logged into Google. And if they have not specifically been invited into the Hangout, you email them the link, not through the Hangout interface. I think there's like a like Craig Ship is knocking or whatever, and then I can click let him in, right? But it's not an audible knock or anything. It's not intrusive. But I think anyone in the Hangout could let him in, right? So if Craig, for example, if this was a Google Apps Hangout, and if Craig emailed the URL to the Hangout to his dad would possibly have gotten an error message in the past. And even people early on, I tried it and I invited people and they came in, then they had to refresh and they couldn't get back in. So that was kludgy. So now anybody can get in. It would just say Craig Ship's dad is trying to get in, and any of us here, if I was distracted and Cadeas saw it or Craig saw it, he could say, yeah, let him in. Okay, so that happened.
Story related to all the complaints recently about the Facebook real names policy and all that stuff that's going on.
What about it? What do you mean?
Is this kind of in that same kind of related to that as far as
No, what this is about is if you're using exactly what we're doing, a private Hangout, but you're using a Google Apps account. If a Google Apps account started the Hangout, then you can have 15 people instead of 10. And it's also restricted, like in your case, you have Google Apps for, I don't think it's for business though, but if you had Google Apps for business for the areaguides.com thing, you could have a Hangout, and it would only allow, or in the past, if Michael Ellis were here, he could tell us better because he does this all the time, or Bruce Turner. But it might only allow area people logged in as Joe at areaguides.com to enter the Hangout.
okay?
And then it was pretty strict on it. You couldn't join if you had the link. Yes, you would have had to invite them. You would have had to invite Hope at Area Guides
Hmm.
for her to enter. Now anybody can enter if they have the link, but
Even if they're not an apps account?
correct, even if they're
Okay.
not a Google Plus user. However, they can sort of they can start to enter, but then you have to click and say, yeah, let them in. But
Well, that's fine.
if you invited her, then she could just come right in. You could invite anybody at yahoo.com, and as long as they're logged in as with any Google account, right? Could be YouTube, Gmail, Facebook, or I'm sorry, not Facebook. Any Google property, Drive. Then, as long as they're currently logged into Google at all, then they can join.
What if they're not logged into Google? They can't
They
come in at
can't.
all?
They can't. It'll probably give them an error message, say log into Google with your Gmail account or whatever, or but you can log into Google with a Yahoo email. You can create an account with any email. I think Allison has that. So a little less kludgy for apps users. Some apps users want certain restrictions, like a school, middle school that uses Google Apps for their students might be very concerned about strangers entering a hangout among students, an official school hangout, right? A business discussing proprietary information and maybe screen sharing the secret plan for the next 5 years might not want Joe Schmo to be able to pop in. So I get that. But if you do want Joe Schmo to pop in, they're making it easier, but you still have to. They can ring the doorbell now instead of just getting an error message, and then you can click yeah, let them in. But it's a visual doorbell, and anyone in the hangout can let them in. So I think it's a good thing, and they'll learn as they go. They're learning as they go. They have been for quite some time. Okay, next up is
two other things that they brought up in that post before we go on. They talked about how easier it is to show what's on your screen. So basically, they added the presenter feature, which we discovered, I think, 2 Google Plus week shows ago. But basically, you can present to everyone, and so even though someone else is talking, you can still leave somebody on the screen. And so that's something that they're just making sure businesses knew, as well as the reducing ambient noise. The other thing that they have is basically when somebody is typing, it'll automatically mute them. So again, this is something that we've had for probably about 1.5 years, but they're just announcing it making sure businesses know that it's out there.
Now, can we get rid of that? I was in a hangout the other day, and it was really irritating. Is there any way to get rid of that?
I don't think so. I think you're stuck on it.
It's another one of those, good intention things that can be a pain in the you-know-what.
Yeah, I could see that.
If you're having a business meeting and people are typing in the chat at the same time and all that, I mean, it just you're hearing like every other word that they say.
God, I'd kill if there was an option to archive these hangout chats and warn everybody that it's being archived.
We already discussed that, and you all torpedoed my idea that it should be part of the show, and people should be able to comment on it, and it should be in the live stream and everything else. Absolutely, it should be. It's very valuable content.
I don't agree with that, but I don't want to get into that fight.
Why
again
wouldn't you agree with that?
Because I think there should be a way to internally say, like, Craig, will you please fucking sit up in your chair? I have 3 feet of headroom above you, or, you know what I mean?
Then you just do that as a private message. You don't include it in the stream.
I don't agree that.
Why can't you have your cake and eat it too? This is 2014 here.
The sky's blue. How irrelevant.
Why shouldn't you be able to type into the chat and have a keystroke that you do or whatever that makes that particular thing private, and other things by default are public? And depending on what the broadcaster wants to do, he should make the decision. He's the one that's doing the show. He's the one that's inviting people in and will tell people what the heck the rules are and what we're doing.
You mean like those old Telnet or whatever it was, the things where you'd /P Craig,
Just to let you know, Craig, that little stream that you were saying you want, it does exist in 2 spots. You can do it on an event page, or you can do it on the YouTube Live. YouTube Live is just literally the streaming comment. So I'm confused at why they would need to see this in comment show too. Or
okay, so here's the reason, Cadeus. In some cases, when I used to do a lot of shows, I don't do that many shows anymore, but we used to have really interesting conversations in the chat within the Hangout that it would have been very nice to have those included in the comments on the YouTube live comments during the show, and let other people that are watching the show also engage in those discussions. It would have been very nice to be able to have that capability.
So wouldn't this...
correct me
need
if
to
I'm
move
wrong,
your
but
conversation.
we can't do that right now, right?
Well, wouldn't your solution be to move those conversations to one of those other two mediums?
It's not as
Well, couldn't you
convenient.
live?
It's not as convenient.
So your issue is more bring a stream into the Hangout window is what you're saying, not necessarily let the Hangout chat, but you're saying you just want one central location for communicating is what you're saying.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so the
Because right
solution
now,
would be to either bring.
what I'm doing during the Hooping Live show is I literally copy and paste the comments into the chat from YouTube. I mean, it's talk about kludgy, right? But that's what Android and all this stuff is all about. It's designed to be kludgy. I'm convinced of that. There's some engineers somewhere sitting back laughing at us. Those guys are putting up with all this stuff.
And Duke Carrico notes they've changed the typing thing to only mute the typing sound without killing the mic. That's cool. That's right. They did that
We were having
while
it
back
kill the
ago.
mic the other day. It was killing the mic.
It may depend on how, I don't know. But yeah, it used to say your mic is muted. I haven't seen that in a long time. I'll try it. Let me I'll click in this thing and see if it
Go
won't
ahead and
impact,
type while you're talking.
All right, so I'm here. I'm on the Hangout, right? Everyone's looking at the Hangout now, and I'll just do it. 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. I'm typing pretty hard on this thing. Testing 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. Now, did you hear me typing a?
It didn't affect it.
I think it depends on what type of Hangout you were into, because I've been in Hangouts where it doesn't mute and other ones where it does. So I think Hangout on air versus just a Hangout, I think that varies versus the number of people.
All right, let's do this. I'm going to put my microphone right here next to the keys. Now I'll try it. Okay, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. Hello.
I'm
This
hearing
is a test
everything.
You're hearing the typing and you're hearing me?
Yeah. We're hearing everything, yeah.
Well, maybe that's kind of an edge case, because I guess most people wouldn't, There are limits to even Google's ability.
This isn't a Hangout on air, though, right, Dan?
No. This
Yeah,
is
I think
YouTube
it's in a
Live.
Hangout on air where it does it. Because we were in Hangouts on air when it was doing it.
Duke, can you clarify that? Is a typing thing Hangouts on air? And you're welcome to join us, Duke. We're obviously dying over here. Yeah, is it only Hangouts on air that has that muting capability, or any kind of Hangout? Okay, so anyway, that happened. Next up is I could not be more excited about this. I remember that stupid Microsoft commercial with the pawn shop guys, Pawn Stars they're called. I don't know what they're called, but they were making fun of Chromebooks. I want to go to Los Angeles and be a star or whatever, and I want to pawn my Chromebook, get to L.A. or Hollywood.
Yeah, good luck on that
Yeah.
one. That'd be like
Yes.
pawning an Android phone. See how far you get.
Anyway, so they did this ad, and it was just trolling the Chromebook. Well, it's not a real laptop. It can't run Word or other
Well,
programs.
that's a feature.
And it can't. It only works if you're connected to the internet. And so this takes a shot just right at that issue, that you can't run quote unquote real programs with the Chromebook, because Adobe has got their big push with Adobe Creative Cloud, and it's coming to Chromebooks, starting with YouTube. I think it's like $10 a month or something. I think it's only for students though at this point, as they're testing it, or it's in early release. So I guess it's going to be a different version. I'm looking at that, and clearly appears. Well, actually, I have an older version, so I don't know what the current one looks like. But Photoshop is the premier photo editing suite. It's the kind of thing, like they say, Othello, the game popularized in, I guess, the 80s. A minute to learn, a lifetime to master, like chess. And Photoshop, I mean, you could probably take a 4-year degree course in Photoshop and just stay in college continuously for the rest of your life, because the new version comes out. It's got all this new stuff. Or you can kind of bang around and do the basic stuff. And there's a ton of YouTube tutorials, but it's a very powerful program. We use it every issue. But I think that's neat that they're going to take a serious, the premier photo editing program, and come out with a Chromebook version that will be cloud-based, I guess.
It'll be real interesting to see how that works.
Now, Kadeus, correct me if I'm wrong. You can like this would be completely cloud based, or would this be some stuff stored locally, or I don't know how that works.
It can be a little bit of both. However, I'm not quite sure how they put it together. I haven't had a chance to get access to it. So, I mean, I don't know. I haven't even seen it yet. So,
Do you is it an overstatement to say this is a game changer in the perception
we
and
kind of
what?
talked about this on Monday's show, and I don't know. I have to wait and see because I find Illustrator a little bit more useful than Photoshop, but I'm sure people will attack me and tell me I'm wrong, like Alan did Monday. So I don't know. I think that
Well, it
Adobe needs
depends
to
what
put
you're doing. If you were making
what
a
you're doing.
poster for a band, I would say Illustrator would be a better choice. If you're trying to cut, Photoshop a politician's head on a donkey or an elephant or whatever, I'd say Photoshop would be the way to go. If you were making a booklet, obviously InDesign would be the way to go, using Photoshop in some cases to lighten
Right.
and
So my
darken
thought
images.
process
There's a
is that
suite
this
of
would
applications with different.
I'm just saying that given the state of internet in this country, I mean, I wouldn't even consider something that was dependent on the cloud.
Not
No
everyone has
way.
shitty internet, Craig. I have excellent
Most.
internet almost all the time, and I know a lot of people
No,
do.
no, you don't. No, you don't. You think you do. You get a machine that's dependent on the internet, and you'll find out real quick how good your internet is.
All my I mean,
right now I'm on a Chromebook, and I think I'm doing pretty good.
yeah, it's
You're not editing a photograph, raw photo.
Well, I would think that they've already worked out that kind of stuff, and so you probably should be able to do that in the cloud. But me personally, I'm thinking that some of that is local, though. I'm thinking that some aspects of that Creative Cloud is local. I think you're just storing in the cloud, but I'm thinking
Yeah, but the
that
machine doesn't have very much RAM, for example. I mean, I'd be very skeptical as to how well that's. Huh?
But Craig, listen,
You have-
your screen resolution is what is it, Kadea? It's like a typical 1920 1080 screen, or right?
I forgot what the pixel is, but I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah, but something that or less, I would guess. The Chromebook Pixel would probably be, I think that's the premier Chromebook, or at least was a year ago, when they gave them out at I/O. But if this is cloud-based, there would be a brief time when you're uploading the raw file. But then if it's actually editing it, manipulating it in the cloud on a super hyped up, ramped up Adobe server, and it's not dealing with this giant 20 megapixel photograph. It's only showing you at most a 1920 by 1080 version, and really slightly less than that because you got the menu controls on the side, and the screen refresh is probably it's not refreshing anything unless it's the part you're changing.
Yeah, in an ideal world, hypothetically, it would work great. But I can tell you right now, when I get back from a shoot and I've got my A7R with 36 megapixel raw files and I've shot 200 photos on the freaking USB 2.0, which is faster than your freaking internet, it takes a while to download those things. And I'm not even talking about USB 3.0, which is faster still, right? It takes a while to download those things. And then when I'm in Aperture with a machine with a boatload of RAM and fast processors and so on and so forth, it's not lightning fast to toggle through those images. If I'm going bam, 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 and toggling through them real quick, I see a big difference between the 12 megapixel photos from my Nikon and the 36 megapixel from the Sony. So it's not a trivial thing, and I think you're going to find in real world use it is going to be a royal pain in the neck to try to do stuff like that cloud based.
And maybe this is why they're limiting it to just colleges right now.
I think it's
This-
fine if you're teaching kids, as long
But I mean,
as this
generally
version.
the colleges have the faster internet speed, so that's probably why they're starting there and they're going to slowly work their way out. Just
That
to
may
make-
be it. That may be it. But also, Cadeus, though, I will opine that probably a lot of those colleges, the people are connecting via Wi-Fi, and that's dog poo-poo. So just because you have a fast Wi-Fi, theoretically, doesn't mean you're going to have fast Wi-Fi to your particular computer at the particular time that you're trying to do your work. And somebody's running a microwave oven and it's interfering with the Wi-Fi or whatever the heck is happening. I'm very skeptical as to how well this is going to work in the real world.
Okay. So we all agree this is epic. I mean, this is like the wheel.
It's pretty much all that. It's going to change everything.
It's in between the wheel and penicillin.
There you
I
go.
think. Um,
You heard it here on Google Plus Week.
Anybody else think it's interesting that Ebola's been killing all these people, and then 2 or 3 Americans get it, and all of a sudden, like priority 1 on Earth is to come up with an Ebola thing?
I hadn't even heard about it. This is the first I'd heard about it. But
Maybe I'm incorrect, but it seems it got a lot more publicity or for the cure, a lot more impetus for the cure once 2 Americans got it. It's like, oh, it's a real thing. It's not some African thing. I think that's awful. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not being fair. But I lived for 2 years in Monrovia, Liberia, which is where this outbreak started. And I knew a lot of people, a lot of nice people. I had a blast there. Now, it was rough. It was right after a coup. I saw people twice beaten to death in front of me. I was almost a kidnapping victim. A guy grabbed my arm and tried to kidnap me. And the cab driver wouldn't let him have me. I was in the 8th grade. And most of the people I knew probably died in the Civil War. I used to go to the zoo and check out the animals, and there was a little baby chimpanzee. He'd run up on my arm, and I'd walk around with him. And then after the Civil War started, the locals went in and they ate all the animals, so they probably ate the chimpanzee. So that said, that was the rough part. The people were so nice and cool and fun and just normal people, just like you'd find in LA or New York or San Francisco or Idaho, just cool people. So I had a blast despite almost dying a couple times. So that happened. Okay, so that's not entirely, since Alan's not here, I'll say it myself. That was not entirely related to Chromebooks. Okay, so next up, there was this story I saw, and I really want to get Craig's opinion on this, but in a nutshell, this is from San Francisco Gate, SF Gate. I don't know what newspaper this is, but their website is SF Gate. I don't know if it's the Chronicle or the other one. But the story here is, there are all these stories about how awesome it is to work at Google, free food and all this stuff, and the gym, but for the bus drivers, it's a rough life. For Brandon Barlow, life as a Google bus driver was one endless cycle of traffic and exhaust. He left home before dawn and arrived home late after hours spent shuttling Google employees back and forth on Highway 101. He wasn't paid for the hours. He had to wait near Google before making the return trip. That was the worst part of the job. I'd like to know more about that. I don't know if that's legal. Cadeas, is that, I guess split shifts are legal. In general, Craig, can you do that? Can I say, Craig, you're working from the lunch rush? Yeah, like in a restaurant, right? I need you from 10:30 a.m. to prep, or 10 a.m. to prep, and then 11 a.m. to serve tables, Craig, until 2. Then we're going to close for 3 hours, and I need you to come back for dinner. And maybe you have to drive 2 hours to the restaurant. So it doesn't make sense for you to go home. Yeah. So you're complaining you're waiting around to reopen when you decided to take the job anyway.
So I'm a little confused on any of these job related things like this, and maybe you can straighten me out. Give me the liberal point of view on this. But did somebody force this guy to take this job? Is this something where somebody had a gun to his head or something and said you must take this job?
That's the thing. People complain about Walmart. If I post anything about Walmart saved a dozen kittens today and fed a bunch of rescued nuns who were drowning. They would immediately, what would happen to my post in the comments. Yeah, well, they're screwing over their workers and they're not paying them a living wage. Nobody, I'll never shop at Walmart. Well, I don't know about you, Craig, but you don't go to Walmart, you go to Costco. Of course, they praise Costco because they actually do pay very well. I think like literally 20 years ago or 15 years ago, I know a guy he was like the cart guy. He went out and got the carts. And he was making like $19 an hour plus benefits. 15 years ago. He's a young kid. So they pay very well. Good for them. They have a high-end clientele. They're profitable. So anyway, all that said, I agree with you that I don't understand. I mean, they pay what the job of a corporation is to pay what they have to pay to retain the quality, skilled workers that they need. If they're
Well,
fabulously wealthy and they choose to do more, but now there's a race for fringe bennies for
but
the engineers.
it goes beyond that, Dan. Here's the deal on that. If an employer doesn't pay somebody enough money or doesn't treat them right or whatever, then ultimately that is going to come back on them, because their competition is going to hire the person or hire somebody similar and pay them and get more performance out of them, and they're going to do better in the marketplace. They're going to compete more effectively. So any employer that treats their employees like garbage is probably not going to be around very long, or is not going to be very profitable, and is going to have all kinds of issues. So this is something that kind of just takes care of itself if you just let the natural ebb and flow of these things take care of themselves. I just don't understand these. When people complain about their job, I just don't understand if they're what I'm missing here. If this is some kind of conscripted labor where they have no choice, like maybe some places in China or whatever, where they force them to work in a particular factory. But I didn't think that was happening in the United States.
To advance this here, it says Barlow was employed by We Drive You, one of the many transportation companies employed by Bay Area tech firms. Now this sounds outrageous, almost like unbelievable, literally. He said he was fired in August after a bomb threat on BART, which I guess is their transportation system, prevented him from getting home until midnight because California law requires commercial drivers to receive an adequate amount of sleep. He called his employers to say he couldn't make the morning leg of a shift. So it wasn't his fault. He was going home. And I don't think a lot of people at this income level can't afford to have a car in a parking space, right? So most people use, in a city, when I was in London, we used Metro Transit, or the tube, or the bus system, and it was very good. So he said they fired him because he called in on the shift when he couldn't legally work. That sounds like a great lawsuit. So he would leave especially in California. Not in Virginia, where they can fire you for anything, but in California. Even in Virginia, we might have a lawsuit there.
Understand.
But in this case, let me rephrase it, Craig. You're in a heavily regulated industry, transportation of people. Okay. If California has chosen to have a law, and we just saw Tracy Morgan get hit by a truck driver from Walmart who hadn't slept in, I think, 24 hours. So there are laws that say you have to get so many hours of sleep, and actually the federal law is going to clamp down, which is going to make the shortage of truck drivers even worse in America. It's a big problem now. I mean, Walmart's run ads in our paper for truck drivers, and they're paying starting out $78,000 plus bennies. They'll train you. I think the average Walmart truck driver 10 years ago made 90-some thousand a year. That's damn good money. Now I don't know how often you're at home versus on the road, right? But I think mainly it's distribution center to stores.
Depending on the wife that you have at home, that might be a feature.
With our history with our incredible success in women, we probably make great truck drivers.
I could think of many times when I would have rather been out on the road for a week.
Why are they always so mad?
I mean, a week on the road,
They're always pissed off. But anyway.
Any road, just give me any road.
I swear to God, it's a good thing we don't have any viewers tonight because we're so late. Because we totally be like blown, like outraged. We'd be on like Mediaite, like you won't believe. They'd be doing those clickbait headlines. You won't believe what they said.
Yeah.
Boycotting was great for the newspaper with the religious fanatics. So he made $18.75 an hour. What, Cadeas? This is not like a Stanford engineer. This is a bus driver, but he's in San Francisco. I assume he's been trained and is a skilled driver because he's got the lives of a bunch of people riding on his ability to do his job and do it well and safely. So this is a very skilled guy. and you don't hear about bus accidents every day. So I assume most of these guys undergo good training and they're probably drug tested, et cetera, et cetera. And uh, close to $20 an hour is in San Francisco is what? That
I
seems low
don't,
to
I
me.
don't know very much about San Francisco actually. I don't.
But you've been in
I've never
cities.
really.
It's an expensive city, right? San
How
I know
much,
Francisco's a
that.
city.
Cadeas, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you pay your driver?
I don't have a driver. I drive myself.
Oh, okay. I
So
get.
sorry, I'm not that rich.
What about your pilot?
Uh, sorry, I'm not that rich either. Dan's the one with servants and stuff. So
I don't
Well,
call
yeah.
them servants. I call them
Staff.
my personal staff.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, so I don't know why they're picking on Google here. All the companies, Apple. I mean, I don't think. Do you think that the bus
but
driver
this
for
isn't Google. It sounds like it was somebody. You said it was a third party company. So I
it's a
mean,
contractor? That's the thing. I mean,
yeah.
do you think the guy
So
who mows the lawn is going to get all the same for works for Mountain View landscaping company and mows the Google lawn is going to whoever that crew is? I mean, they're contracted because Google doesn't want to get in the lawn care business. And so they call around in the yellow pages and they find the best deal for someone who's competent and reliable and can do a good job, make their lawns look pretty. And then, I mean, the contract price is the contract price. They probably decide who's among the competent good ones. Maybe, call around and get a recommendation and then kind of look at the pricing and you go with the company. You really don't even know what they're getting paid. It's none of your business. If I hire, Deviceful to create an app for me, if you outsource part of it or have your staff do it, Cadeas, that's none of my damn business how much you're paying them, right? We agreed on a contract price. You produce an app and you maintain it for this price initially and then this much a year or whatever you do. That's your business to a degree, I think. Entirely, I think.
which is probably why Google started making their security guards now employees, so then that way they can kind of hold them liable for.
Well, what do you think the motivation is here? This is
Which
the
is our
next
next
step.
story.
And it should be noted that the first story, critical of Google for not paying the bus driver who doesn't even work for them as much as the Stanford graduate coding in a cubicle who Facebook and Microsoft and Apple are desperately trying to steal from them, so they have to give them stuff to keep them. They're not paying the bus driver as much, or they're not paying that some third-party companies not paying their bus drivers enough. So it's why would you even contrast this with Google? If they have a problem with the company that owns the bus company not paying enough of the drivers, why is it Google's problem? When all the companies do this. I mean, the guy who does the landscaping, the janitor who scrubs the toilet, the guy who paints, renovates, the construction company that's building the new Kirkland buildings. Do they have to like find out what everyone's making and make sure they're? I mean, this is ridiculous. So we go from the San Francisco paper to the Wall Street Journal, which is a little more conservative than the San Francisco outlet. I'm just wildly speculating here. And they say here, this topic here, Google to make security guards employees rather than contractors. So it says in a move that could reverberate around Silicon Valley, they plan to hire more than 200 security guards as their own employees rather than through an outside contractor. They'll be eligible for the same benefits as other Googlers, including health insurance, retirement benefits, on-site medical services, leave for new parents, and more. I'm not sure about the free food and all that stuff, but I would guess, yeah. The move comes amid rising concerns about income disparities in the San Francisco Bay Area. So maybe this is a thing like, well, let's throw them a bone, get some good PR. Let's send it to Fox News and the Wall Street Journal. They'll run it. I'm guessing that's probably what happened. And we'll start with security guards, right? Because now we're pro law enforcement, we're pro employee, and so
Yeah, it doesn't cost them that much money to do it, and they may do it for a little while and then quietly change things around later or whatever.
here
who
we
knows?
go. Here's the key look at this story, Craig. This is paragraph 3. This explains where the San Francisco SF Gate was turned on to the story, I assume. The move comes amid rising concerns about income disparities a think tank with ties to organized labor, issued a report in August highlighting the differences in pay, benefits, and working conditions between tech company employees and service workers, such as security guards, janitors, and landscapers, who primarily work for outside contractors. So there you go. So it's just like,
Yep.
people complained about the Koch brothers. I was listening to Diane Rehm when I was walking today. I literally walk in the park every day for exercise. And I listened to the previous day, because I do it usually before they post it. So I listened to the previous day's podcast to the Diane Rehm show, which is fantastic, WAMU. And it's interesting, but all the callers are liberal, literally 100%. But they were talking about this ALEC group that Google's Eric Schmidt said they weren't going to support anymore, and they write they come up, they get big companies together with legislators, and they create model legislation, and then the legislators introduce this as their own bill, and it's like verbatim in 15 different states. That's what they do, and they were for that Google. They were for them on some stuff, but then they had some model legislation that was upset the climate change folks, and so Google said that we're not going to be an ALEC anymore, and which is a 41-year-old group. But it was a very interesting interview. They had the head of ALEC there. They had a reporter. They had someone from Common Cause who has been concerned about ALEC for quite some time, and then they had callers calling in, and all of the callers didn't like ALEC. It was really, I don't know why they went in to talk about going to the Lions Den, but it was a really interesting thing. It's like so anyway, that happened, and this is just, I'm sorry, but you pay what you have to pay. A company has a fiduciary responsibility to stay in business to protect the employees, and like my top salesperson makes about twice what I pay myself, and she's by far the highest paid, more than the editor, more than any of the writers, copy editors, delivery drivers, almost as much as I pay to print the paper. I pay my top salesperson because she's badass and she generates a lot of revenue, and because of her sales skill, she allows me to have all the other employees with the revenue she generates. The same thing here. You got the coders who generate the amazing code that Google produces, and now the security guards who keep them safe from the people protesting that the pay for the drivers and the other workers who wouldn't have a job if the coders and the sales guys didn't generate the revenue so that everyone else could work there. You kind of, and like it all boils down to what Craig said. Nobody put a gun to anybody's head to force them. You will drive. This is not North Korea. You will do this. You will drive a bus. You will scrub the toilet. You will create the next search engine. It's a free economy.
And see, the problem with these laws, again, they have good intentions, right? They tell these companies, okay, you're going to have to pay these people more money. You're going to have to give them more benefits. You're going to have to give them health insurance. You have to do all these things. And then the company figures out a way to do it with less employees. Maybe they automate some things. Maybe they put up some security cameras and some other things, and they can cut their guard force from 6 to 3, right? I mean, companies are not stupid. They figure out ways around this stuff. And what happens is more and more people end up out of work, and that's why we have record numbers of unemployment, and we have basically a jobless future ahead of us where there are going to be fewer and fewer people employed. These things do not work. I mean, the result is it harms the people that these do-gooders think it's going to help.
Before we move, I want to get Cadeas's view on this. And then I want to get Cadeas's view on something else. What do you think about, should the bus driver get, I think the average engineer at Google I think the average intern makes 80 something. Intern makes 80 some thousand a year. The average engineer at Google makes, I think, $130 a year, something like that, plus all the bennies. In fact, the benefits are so good, they had to create a rule that you could not live at Google. You had to have a bed somewhere, Eric Schmidt said. It was fascinating. He's written this new book. I bought it. I haven't read it yet, but I heard him talking about it, the Cliff Notes version on the Diane Rehm show. And he said, we literally are so accommodating to make it so they don't have to leave for lunch or whatever. They like to be at Google. We had to actually force them to go home at some point because they can shower, they can crash in their cubicle, they can eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's by like world class chefs. You know what I mean? And they have the gym because everyone's getting fat because the food's so good, and they have like I think they instituted the red dots with green, yellow, and red stickers. Like the leafy vegetable salad bar would be like a green sticker, but the French dressing might have a yellow sticker, and the dessert would have a red sticker. You know, maybe a flashing light. You know, don't eat this. I mean, it's funny as shit. Only Google could come up with this. But you know, so they treat him well. But Cadeas, what do you think? Do you think that the bus driver who works for a contractor should get $130,000 a year plus free food, gym? You know,
The bus driver is a contractor, so he's not entitled to the same things as an employee. But and from my perspective, I don't know why they have bus drivers in a different part of the world. So
let me ask you something. You've probably used Elance or one of the similar sites to get someone to code something you didn't have time to deal with, and it was a commodity type project or a sub part of a project that was a commodity skill. I need you to do this PHP, create a menu system, what have you. Have you done that before?
maybe twice.
Okay, in either of those circumstances, I assume you looked for someone who had the skills, and you looked at their portfolio and determined that this person was competent. You had a conversation with them. You were impressed that they could communicate well and understood your desires, and then they asked for a certain rate, right?
Okay.
Either a
I'm following.
hourly or a project expense. And in either of those cases, did you determine that the rate was subpar from what you might pay someone in Newport Beach? And did you offer to pay them more voluntarily so that they would get the same as they would get if they were in Newport Beach in a $3,000 a month condo?
Unfortunately, I'm the type of person that does pay them more. I generally try to help people, so
More
yeah.
is not the same as Newport Beach local hire, which you
No,
hire
I
a
usually
staff
I
guy.
usually find out. I usually find out what the person. Basically, I try to find out what the person makes, and my question I always ask is your biggest project that you've ever worked on? How much did you get paid for it? And then I calculate what they're doing versus what I would be willing to pay to help them out in a. I do things a little differently than everybody else because I'm always trying to help people. I don't necessarily just think of myself and my company. I think of
Honestly,
the person.
I did the same thing as an experiment. We hired a Pakistani guy one time, and I think he wanted like $4 an hour or something, and I paid him like 6 or 8, I forget, because I can't hire someone for $4 an hour. I don't care if that's like upper middle class there. So I'm kind of the same way as you. Also, when I have a local redneck friend who's like I had a truck breakdown, and my friend came over, and it was like 11 at night, and I didn't know how to fix it, and he went in there and spent 20 minutes fixing it, and I gave him like $50, and he's like, Dan, you're my friend, you don't have to pay me. I said, go, blow it on.
Wait a
some
minute,
beer
Dan.
and
You
pizza.
told me you gave him a slice of pizza.
But I said, listen. The next time, listen, I know I don't have to pay you. We never negotiate anything, and I know you're doing it as a favor, but let me do this gesture for you as a favor and give you $50 so that the next time my truck breaks down at 11 p.m., you will leap out of bed and come and fix it, right? Because if it happens again, it's like, oh, man, I'm not going to, I don't want to, don't answer the call, honey. It's Dan. His truck's probably broken down. It's the same night, same time. It's probably, so I don't know. Anyway, okay, so speaking of security guards, Craig,
In Dan's defense, his pizza is really good. It's good pizza.
yeah, I can cook a 90-second marguerite pizza in my 1,000-degree
It's
oven.
pretty much all that. So
Yeah, so when I make a pizza analogy, it's no joke.
yeah.
High payment for services rendered. So this, I just want to get your quick take on this. I don't want to do an hour on this, but the Secret Service thing. I've got to talk about this, and I've had some run-ins. I'm gonna be on the radio tomorrow at it's out just after 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific tomorrow being Saturday, October 4th, on the Virginia Talk Radio Network. You can find it at virginiatalkradionetwork.com. And I'm going to talk to Secret Service. I'm going to tell a couple funny stories about when I was covering Obama, then senator. No, once as president, once as senator. When the incidents occurred, but I was covering him, and my run-ins with the Secret Service, including one guy said, "If you stand here, that guy's going to shoot you." And I was like, "Okay, I won't stand there. You win." Anyway, so, and one time when they wouldn't let me talk to the crowd, and to keep me from talking to the crowd, I said, "Oh, I got to take a leak," and they thought I wanted to talk to a member of the audience, and so that I was escorted by the Secret Service to the bathroom. I was literally escorted to piss by the United States Secret Service. Not even uniformed. I mean, like the suit guys, the high dollar ones, not like the uniformed Google bus driver guys, right? The Stanford cubicle non-uniform division. So I could take a leak. And they waited for me. And then I came out and they escorted me back. Anyway, I'll be talking about all this tomorrow.
Well, as long as they didn't hold it for you, then
exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
There were no attractive female agents, or we could have, I could have said, I don't don't feel safe going in there. Could you? I mean, I get out alive. These people are attacking the media. So anyway, what do you think about this? The Secret Service's budget, I looked it up the other day, and I think it's $7 million a day. I think if Craig, if I gave you $7 million a day, could you afford to install a lock on the front door of your house?
See, I think you're looking at this all wrong, man, because any kind of a problem like this can always be solved.
After Craig Cadeas, what does he think about this? Go ahead, Craig.
This can always be solved with more funding, more manpower. Any problem like this, we just have to budget more for it, and we can fix these kinds of things. This is the way government operates, and the people that were in charge that allowed this lapse to happen in the first place, allowed somebody to walk right into the White House and run up and down the hallways. They just need to get a promotion, and they need to get more staff and more funding and so forth, and they can fix all these problems. Nothing that can't be fixed with more manpower and more resources. So it's not really an issue.
I really don't have a comment on this.
Not a tech thing.
I'm on the West Coast.
We could actually fix this with tech, though, really, if you think about it. This could have all been
Can you
fixed.
believe they have a crash alarm and it was turned off or turned down because the usher's office, the usher complained it was too loud. The alarm that when someone says, okay, there's an intruder, something's gone wrong, and they have an alarm, and then that tells everyone, intruder, all the guards are like, ready to go, I'm going to kill somebody. It's been a while. And it was turned down because it went off too often. It was too loud. It was intrusive on the ambiance of my God. I was talking to some African. They discussed, again, it sounds like I'm an advocate for the Diane Rehm show, and I guess I am, but some dude from Africa called in, and he said, in my home country, we didn't call it the White House. It was the state mansion or whatever. He said there was literally like a platoon of soldiers out front with like surface to air missiles and shit. I mean, they were ready, Nobody's jumping the fence.
We'll get there. Give us time. We'll get there.
If you try to jump the fence of the Cameroon president or whatever, you're not gonna. It's not gonna end well for you. They're not gonna not. They didn't release the dog on the guy because they said there were so many agents that they were afraid that the dog would attack one of the agents. And at that point, there was no visible weapon in the guy's hand, but he was armed, and he had 800 bullets in his car, and he was able to literally roam around in that building in the East Room of the White House, where you see the president's long red carpet leading up to it, and like you'd see Reagan or Obama or any of these guys when they're giving some big speech, but they don't want to do it in the press briefing room because they don't want to take questions, and so they pull the reporters. And then you see him come out, and you see the president walk up this long red carpeted corridor and then stand at a podium. In that room, that's where the guy tackled him. Just some jerk can run around the White House, take maybe they'll charge him with an after-hours tour.
Yeah, it's nothing that some additional funding can't handle. We'll just have some hearings, some congressional hearings and so forth, and give the people involved a promotion and give them a little bit more staff, and we can resolve this.
All right, so now next up is we learned that I want to get Craig's take on this.
Yeah, and this is my last story because I got to go do a security check here. I think we're about to be infiltrated.
Or you could lock your front door. Can you believe there's not a...
My door's not locked right now.
And he lives at Camp David, so he doesn't need a lock.
See, if you live in the right place, you don't need locks.
So the story here is U.S. top cop decries encryptions, demands back doors. This is, I assume, a response to the whole Edward Snowden revelations about what some folks say is excessive spying on Americans and spying on our foreign leaders that are friends, which I assume we've always done since George Washington and before, and I'm sure they do it to us. So if someone said, I just bought an ad from a competitive newspaper, you don't think I'm going to say, hey, Craig, how big was the ad and how much was it, right? Everyone snoops. And I have friends at the other paper, but I'm curious, right? It's, Yeah. So they built this encryption. Tell us, Craig, what this encryption is that they announced for the iPhone. That even if it's pointless now to say, here's a warrant for you to break into. Let's say, Craig, you were arrested for jaywalking or something, and they wanted to prove that you caused an accident. They think you were texting while walking across the street, and they wanted to prove it. And the phone records had a server failure. They used whatever company the IRS uses. And your phone was locked. They couldn't get past it. There's no point now not in your case there is because you haven't downloaded the new iOS yet, but there won't be a point in issuing that warrant. Why, and what do you think about it?
Well, I'm not sure what all is encrypted. I don't think your phone and texting information, I'm not so sure that that's encrypted, but it would be great if it all was. So where they're headed with this is a situation where the data that goes up to Apple, from what I understand, it's encrypted before it goes up there, I guess, and it's a very high level of encryption, 256-bit or something. I mean, something really very hard to crack. It would take many, many years for the best computers.
Did they say, let me clarify here, did they say that it affected cloud-based things? I thought it was only like if you took a photo or typed a document and saved it just locally on some app on your phone and didn't upload it to any cloud service that this would impact. They couldn't get to it.
I don't think so. No, I think it's they can't get it from Apple. I think that's the thing. That's what's happening. That I think that's what the difference is they can't, even if they have a court order or whatever, they can't go to Apple and get anything. They can still get it from me. If they grab my phone or if they grab my computer and they can get into my stuff, they can get the password or whatever, and they can get in, they can still get it, I think, from my local devices. But they can't get anything from Apple. That's what I understood it to be. Maybe Cadeas can shed some more light on it.
And also, Cadeas, as we go to you, can you explain, because Android, I think, is getting ready to do the same thing. What exactly... I think they can't. I know they can't break into your phone. If you have like a password or whatever, they can't get into it, and Apple won't be able to get into it either. So they're removing their ability. They used to be able to, if the police, if the feds, if they busted a drug dealer and they wanted to look at his phone, and maybe he was using something other than regular text messaging. He was using WhatsApp or what have you, that they could give him some code or bypass they break into the phone to get the evidence, and they're saying that we're going to remove that ability. But tell us exactly what we're talking about here. What won't they be able to do anymore?
From my understanding, and I haven't actually looked into this, but from my understanding, you basically your phone is encrypted. So all the data on your phone and your handset is encrypted to the point where if you forget your, let's just talk about Apple. If you forget your password that you've locked and you disable your phone, Apple can't help you get back into that phone because they have no, because of the level of encryption. But my understanding, again, I was just being told, and I didn't really look into it, as it was an iPhone, so I wasn't really that interested. But my understanding was they can still get the cloud data, but they can't get the stuff that's local as long as it's encrypted, which iOS 8 is fully encrypted.
Well, see, I thought it was the opposite. I thought that they couldn't get anything from Apple, period.
I think it's from the local device. Like if they
They
have
can't
your
get
phone.
they can't get the password to your phone. So like, because generally they can take your phone, if you lock yourself out of your phone, you used to be able to go to Apple and say, hey, I locked myself out. This is me. Here's proof that
Are
it's
you sure that everything that's going up in the cloud isn't encrypted as well? I thought it was all encrypted.
someone was telling me about this story, and that's how it was told to me.
Because
and
if they can get, I'll put it this way, if the NSA can get to what's in the cloud, then this is meaningless. This means nothing.
Okay, so either I don't want to debate something that we just simply don't know, but the facts are out there. But what about, let's debate this. Is it, the Attorney General says they should build backdoors because it's crucial if you have the guy who knows where bin Laden was, or if you have the guy who knows where the Boston Marathon is, or some guy he's the example that everyone would agree with, a pedophile, and he's got pictures he's taken of children, and you're trying to get to that evidence. So, of course, his job is to put out the most damning example of justice not being served. The other side of the coin is that based after the Edward Snowden leaks came out, a lot of people were sort of taken aback by, do you really need everything I've done? Now Craig and I are totally open and public, and we don't care. I assume everything I do on the internet is someone's stockpiling in some database so that if I ever go rogue, they can get all that information. And my biggest fear probably is that since Home Depot and Target and hundreds of other companies can't seem to keep even their the most secure thing that they do, which is credit card transactions, secure, I worry that if Edward Snowden can walk out of his office with like the biggest national security secrets in existence, that someone might be able to leak Kadeus Kalut or Britney Spears phone logs from the NSA, and so, or what have you. So
Well, there are two things I want to point out. First, the article does clarify that despite authorities with valid court warrants can get records of your text messages, calls, and even device backups that are stored on cloud services. So they can still do it. They can still grab the data off the cloud services. And then to answer your question, Dan, I don't think we should build backdoors into anything, because once you give somebody, once there's a backdoor, it's always abused in some fashion or another. So I don't think that backdoors are necessary.
There's other ways for police to investigate crimes. But yeah, again, I mean, if this data is accessible from the cloud, then this is meaningless. It's totally meaningless.
also, it should be pointed out, this is not new. BlackBerry, when President Obama first was in the run up to him assuming office, he's a pretty high tech guy as presidents go, historically. So he was issued a BlackBerry, and they said that was the most secure phone in 2008, and that it was they had this big knockdown drag out with the Indian government after the Bombay shootings, where they were concerned about terrorism and their inability that if you were a private company and you set up your own BlackBerry server, that BlackBerry, if you issued them a warrant, if they had a suspected terrorist or any kind of criminal, that BlackBerry was not able to break into that server that was held at whatever company and access that data. And so they said, we're going to ban BlackBerries in India. And I forget they worked something out. I don't remember what. But this is not new, this argument. But I think that obviously this was motivated by the post-Snowden era, about people saying, wait a minute, We want to push back.
Well, and like I say, I'm very disappointed if in fact this data is accessible from the cloud, then that it's worthless.
And I'm
You know,
not worried.
that is a backdoor in effect. I mean, if they can come in through the cloud, come into the phone and get all my stuff, see, I don't think they can. I think that they're totally blocked from getting it, but I think that article could be wrong.
My worry isn't that they're going to find my text messages or something like that. My worry is they're going to, well, it is if it's a business related thing, and we're like if Craig and I are discussing a secret project that we're getting ready that we wouldn't want to push out, that we wouldn't want competitors to know about. And like I said, if Target and Home Depot and so many other companies can't keep the most secure thing that they have, credit card data secure, then I worry that I wouldn't want the ability to have a backdoor because I think that could be hacked. Because as we discussed just a moment ago, we discussed that some jerk can jump the White House fence and roam around the White House. I can't imagine that the government is talented enough to keep
Yeah, see,
a hacker out of our data.
I have a different rub on this, and this will be I'll roll after this. But my thing is, I don't want the government to be able to access all this information because I don't want to pay the government to go through all this information. That's my thing.
Well, clearly
I
they're
don't
not
really care.
combing through. They're not
Huh?
combing through. I mean, they don't have the resources.
But I don't want to pay for a huge data center out west that's like the biggest freaking data center ever built and all this stuff. I'm just not interested in paying for all this infrastructure. And that's my thing, is I think that they need to get back to good old-fashioned law enforcement and go after the criminals, and that's fine. But they don't need all this stuff. This is getting ridiculous. And the amount of money that they're spending on all of this kind of stuff
Craig, do you have
is
just,
just
okay? Do you have just a moment to stick around if we do this real brief? Because I really want your take on. We have two more, or one more for you, and then the last one will be Cadeas. The FCC is considering a move to right now. If you are a broadcast television station with a Class A license, not like a little community or low power TV, but if you are, Fox 5, that you can either do a must carry provision, which is the way historically it was, where a cable system had to carry your signal, and that's legacy because they were worried when cable was first rolling out that they would only go with like CNN and C-SPAN and stuff like that, and they wouldn't carry the local TV stations. So they said you have to carry the local TV stations because you're supplanting broadcast. Some people will just use cable and not have an antenna. And then the local content companies like Fox 5 and NBC4 said, well, wait a minute, we're producing valuable content and they're charging consumers for it, and CNN gets paid for their content. Why don't we? So they lobbied, and then the FCC or Congress passed the Cable Whatever Act of 19 whatever, and now you can do what's called a retransmission agreement, where you can opt out of the must carry provision and then enter into a negotiation period. And if either party has the right, if they feel that the other party is being unfair in the negotiations, like let's say they wanted $100 per subscriber per month for Fox 5, then they could complain to the FCC, and the FCC commission, which is 3 people, would weigh and issue some sort of ruling and intervene. So you get certain rights, both parties get certain rights for government mediation, if you will, if they are a regular broadcast TV. Now, Aereo was just ruled basically illegal by the Supreme Court. So the FCC has hinted that they're considering making internet television providers solely internet. Think Al Jazeera America, which has a stream, or Twit TV will be a good example, that they could be classified as the same as a television station. In other words, right now, if Twit went to Comcast and said we would like carriage, they can laugh them out of the room and ignore them. Same thing happened with me. There's no television station in or covering Warren County or Frederick County, Virginia. If a big building blows up, yeah, Fox will send a TV helicopter or crew. 4 or 5 times a year they cover our town or either county. But generally there's just no television coverage. We wanted to create a TV channel. And so I went to Comcast. They literally laughed at me. The guy laughed at me on the phone. and because they have it's not technically a monopoly, but it's basically a monopoly because the government says you have to go to everything. If a new player comes in, if a new player comes in, then Comcast can say, well, you in their contract that they say that if Craig Ship Cable wants to come in, he has to do the same thing we did and build out cable to every single place in Warren County or Frederick County, which is not doesn't make any sense. If there's already an incumbent, it doesn't make sense for Craig to spend the money to lay copper or fiber to every single residence in the whole county before he can turn the lights on, because you're not going to make enough money if there's two players
I
competing.
think they would. I think they would, and I think it's going to happen at some point.
Not in Warren or Frederick County, Virginia. It might in L.A., it might in New York, where you got a lot of clustered housing and it's cheaper, right? It's
It
cheaper to
might
run
take
fiber
20
to a
years, but it's
townhouse.
probably going to happen. I mean, somebody's going to do it. Either that or this will be a third world country.
Well, you can do it right now in almost every locality. You can if you agree to lay to every house. And if that was a sure lottery ticket, then somebody would have done it. Nobody's done it. So I'm thinking it's a bad idea.
Well,
like
no,
the
I mean, it
selling on
might be
eBay thing
done.
we talked about earlier.
You give them time. Give Google and Apple and all these time to get fed up with the current situation.
Well, all the experts have determined that it's a bad idea. So we can see what happens. But the point is,
Well, the experts are idiots.
anyway, I don't want to
They're
get off.
idiots.
I don't want to get on a 10-minute unrelated topic. The issue here is now this does not apply to a Netflix type on-demand service where you decide I'm going to watch House of Cards or I'm going to watch Black is the New or Orange is the New Black or whatever. This applies to something like Twit, which has a linear thing that is broadcasting like programming live or pre-recorded, but like at 2 o'clock there's this show, at 3 o'clock there's this show. Basically, Twit is a TV channel, but it's only available online.
Mhm.
But for the fact that they don't have a transmitter and they're not on channel 6, there is no difference at all, except for like content. They don't have local news and stuff. There's no difference at all between Twit and Fox 5.
Okay, so what's your point?
I'm asking if you think this is a good idea. That they're going to the
What's
FCC
a
is
good idea?
considering saying that an entity like Twit that produces a linear content, in other words, it's like broadcasting to each person, and it's straight up content from a server to you, that they would have the same rights. And the first link is Mashable, which just basically rewrote the first article, and I hate when they that's all they do. Not now, it's 90% of what they do, but it used to be all they do. The FCC proposes defining linear OVDs as MVPDs, and according to this is from a multichannel.com, which is obviously a site for very in-depth knowledge TV people. But it says, according to multiple sources, the FCC is working on an item that would define an online video provider that delivers a linear stream of programming as an MVPD, similar to a cable or satellite operator. That means it would have access to content through the FCC's program access rules, but also have to negotiate retransmission consent with broadcasters. The idea is that over-the-top providers would have an FCC-enforced access to vertically integrated programming. And FCC, they didn't comment. In other words, they would be treated like a local TV station.
I
That
just
means
don't know what the numbers, how the numbers would work out. If it would be worthwhile for Twit to pay those fees, my guess is it wouldn't. My guess is they wouldn't make any money because it would cost them too much to pay the fees to be carried on all the cable stations. I mean,
no, the fees that right now, they could choose to, but sometimes they can be denied. Al Jazeera America was kicked off of some cable systems because of political reasons.
yeah,
which
but
I
my
can
point
understand.
is they'd have to pay. It's going to come down to dollars and cents. I mean, if Leo wanted to have his Twit thing on the Comcast here in Frederick County, right, he would have to pay Comcast a certain amount to reach all of those people. And my guess is he's not making enough off his advertising to support paying for all of that. And so it wouldn't make any sense.
See, I don't know how it would, because like once a station is established, they get paid by Comcast and the other cable companies. When Fox News first started, that was Rupert Murdoch's pet project, and he paid cable providers to carry it. And then now it's very popular. Now they get paid. That's how it works. When you're starting out,
Yeah,
you
well-
can pay for access. They told me I could pay $50,000 a month or a year for carriage. I forget, and it would be in the nosebleed seats, like way up in the channels, right? Nobody would find me,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it wasn't worth it.
Exactly. I don't think, yeah, I just don't think it'd be practical, and I think that that's why Leo's doing it the way he's doing it. I just don't think it makes financial sense.
It may make financial sense because there are a lot of very profitable. The king of the hill is ESPN. They get about, I think, the last I heard was roughly, if you are a cable subscriber and have ESPN, $4.50 of your bill goes to ESPN, regardless of whether you watch it. If it's on your cable system, you're paying it per month, regardless of how much you watch.
Yeah. Leo ain't no ESPN.
That's fair.
So
All right, so that was the story I wanted to get your take on. Kadesh, do you have anything on that? And Craig, thanks. I don't know if you want.
Yeah.
I think you're rolling out, but thank you very much.
thank
I
you.
don't,
Should okay. All right.
I don't
last-
have anything on that.
The last thing, and Alan will be fantastic on this, but this is coming up on our Android Week, is this topic. It says publishers will be fools to disregard wearables, says the Financial Times CTO John O'Donovan, as he discusses smartwatch opportunities and responsive design pitfalls. And they've done a nice, and as Alan explained, that you don't there are, like for Android Wear, there aren't specific Android Wear apps. What it is if you have the Financial Times app on your phone and you have an Android Wear watch connected to it, to your phone, the app is automatically installed or simply works on the phone. Kadesh, how does that?
Depends on the app, but it'll do either or, depending on what it's programmed to do.
But you don't
But,
like on your phone go to Play to install the Android
No, you
Wear
don't have to do
version.
any. As the user, you don't have to do anything extra.
If
But
there's
what's
an
good about
Android-
this?
So if there's an Android Wear functionality available for an app, and you have the app on the phone that is Bluetooth to the Android Wear device, it will just work.
It will just work, right?
Okay, so
But
what do you
what's
think
good
about this?
is that I think this is really good. And actually, before he even made this statement, Circa, which is the app that I use to get all the news because they're just short, sweet, and to the point. Oh God, Circa allows me to. Well, they've just updated where now you can get all the news, and so then they have like daily updates, and then they news flash you whenever something important that's relevant to you happens. So it's a really good app. And I'm glad that they're already doing it. So they're already way ahead of the Financial Times and all the other people. So, yeah, that's a good thing. So, but I guess we'll talk more about that on Monday. Dan, what time is the show on Monday?
It's at 9 p.m. Eastern. Hang on
He's
one
far
second.
away. 9 p.m. Eastern, 6
So,
p.m. Pacific.
Question: I like Circa. The only thing I don't like is when I get my daily thing, it's this weird
new.
chime, and it freaks me out every time.
Yeah,
I'm-
that's
I'm-
new. And that's when I realized it was working in Android Wear because of that.
If I die of a heart attack, I want you to research and find out if it was right when they pushed out the Circa news update. Because
I'm
it's this
interested
loud,
on
weird
interested
chime,
on
and
something
what the
on
hell is-
that. With the Circa news updates, since you're on the East Coast, what time does that news update happen for you?
So I think it's in the morning, like 10 or when I'm walking 10, 11, 12, I don't know, something like that. Usually they hit you before
Okay.
lunch, right? Because that's when
Well,
most
no,
people
for
are
me
gonna
it's like
screw around.
8 a.m. So I was just trying to figure out if it's based upon location, and I hadn't sat down and really played with it yet. I didn't know if it was based upon location, but it just seemed like when I got up in the morning and I started moving it, I didn't know if my Android Wear was saying, "Hey, he's up and rolling," and then they notified me, or if it was more location related. And I was wondering if people on the East Coast is getting it, because
I
if
don't
I'm getting
know.
it at 8, that means that Hawaii's probably getting it pretty early. So that's why I was wondering.
Well, they probably go with your time zone, I would guess. If you're logged in, they know where you are. Or usually, I don't know if they do or not.
That's why I was wondering, and so just let me know what time you're getting those. I'm curious.
But I like it. I swear to God, I've just lately the best news aggregator, and I use Flipboard. Circa once in a while. I'll check them out again based on your recommendation. I do like you can follow a topic, and then it tells you. But I love only because I'm getting, as Microsoft would say, scroogled, where Google knows everything about me. The best news aggregator and just general interest aggregator is the Google app on my phone. When you click more stories, you go to the Google app and it shows you like 3 stories along with the weather, and it thinks you're going to drive to this place, what have you.
You're talking about Google Now.
Well, now it's just called the Google app. They don't even call it Google Now, but I guess it's Google Now as a part of. I don't know. They keep changing every week. It's a new name. But I swear to God, when on the Google app for Android, where you have all your Google Now stuff, they've finally gotten the news aggregation business, or curation business, I should say. And if you click that More Stories button, I'm interested in 99%. Sometimes everything is interesting to me. It's a terrific time waster, and so it's just they do a fantastic job. It's sometimes a day-old story, sometimes a 4-hour-old story. So it's not like up-to-the-minute breaking news that you go to Twitter for that. But I just find they've really upped their game. And if anyone hasn't checked lately, go to Google, and it could be stuff. It's based on stuff you've emailed about or searched, I think, or whatever. And so it might be like a recipe or an article about anything you're interested in, not just necessarily news, just something that's related to your interests. And it's just fantastic. And it's very exciting to see them make a foray in that space. Okay, so as Kadeus mentioned, Our Android Week is our other program. That is every Monday at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific on Google Plus and YouTube Live, where we discuss all things Android. Our Android Week, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. Check out our Flipboard magazine. It's called Our Android Week. And check out our page. I think we share the show there if you'd prefer to get it there rather than my personal profile, which is filled with way too many posts normally. Also, this program is called Google Plus Week. We're on every Friday at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, although we were delayed tonight. I apologize. And we had a slimmed down panel because of some, I think, traveling things going on. But anyway, thanks to Duke for our comment. I can't believe we had, I think, 12 peak, 20 total live, and we had one comment the whole night. That's wild. So, or the comment thing's broken, which has never happened before, so that would be a shock. But we love our comment thing, even when it's broken. But anyway, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Thanks to our panel. Reminder, I'll be on the Virginia Talk Radio Network tomorrow, Saturday, the 4th of October at 11, just after the CBS News at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time, and I'll be discussing the Secret Service situation. Anyway, it'll be good. So, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. And until next time, have an epic, awesome, badass Google Plus week.